It's Richard Lusmore. The favourite club had to be Spiders, to be fair, on a weekend. I actually lived at Spiders for about 5 or 6 years before moving on to the new Sill down Park Street. Well, it started with the rock and roll, rockabilly, psychobilly stuff, but then moved into general mainstream indie, to be fair, and then got caught on most of the sort of fads that came along. So by the time I moved on to Silhouette, it was probably into the Manchester style stuff, but still retained me interest in the roots music, shall we say. Gatsby's was the other one, short-lived, but a Thursday night rock and roll night. It used to be some of the lads who I first met at Good Fellowship back in 81, 82, when they had the short-lived rock and roll nights. Don't know who was behind it, to be honest, but there was a few lads from town who started meeting up there, probably about 50, 60 on a Thursday night, good nights. That was traditional rock and roll, rockabilly, jive, blues. Sometimes if somebody else was doing the DJing, there'd be a bit of neo-rockabilly revival stuff, but mainly it was the original 50s sounds. It depends what theme we adopted for the night, but it could be the old peg suits. Otherwise it was the scruff look, shall we call it, the check shirts, bowling shirts, 501s, brogues, moccasins, whatever was in at the time. It'd either be the old flat top or we might have been into the greasebacks by then. Yeah, good times. I don't remember any of the nights. They were all good. No, not specifically. They were just. It was a really good crowd, good feeling. Just good music. Yeah, they all merged into one, to be fair, looking back now. But it was a good time. Good time to be young.
Sure, my name's Hannah Cooper. Yeah, well for me it's definitely Spiders, which you probably hear a lot. Pretty formative in my first years of going out. A place where basically you were welcome, no one was making any judgments. It was very friendly. When friends were starting to go out to nightclubs and it was seemingly a bit dangerous with, alcohol and fights involved, there never seemed to be any of that in Spiders, so it always felt, like a really welcoming place. I was into a lot of kind of indie music at the time, starting to kind of listen to all different kinds of music really. I mean, getting into 80s music, getting into Bowie, getting into like slightly older kind of 80s dance. So this is when I was going in the kind of early 2000s really. So loved kind of 60s music as well from my mum, like Beach Boys. Didn't really have a lot that I didn't like, but it was definitely, Spiders was seen as obviously the alternative place to go, so it wasn't a pop venue, it wasn't a cheesy bar, it was an independent alternative venue. Well, actually, we quite enjoyed going into town on Saturday and doing a round of the charity shops, buying something possibly quite bizarre. I remember one time I bought like a tartan dress, which I've never worn again. And I wore that one time. I think I've worn like anything from like a second-hand basketball vest to I don't know, like an old lady's blouse. We had a lot of fun just kind of feeling like we could wear whatever we wanted to. I actually met my partner in Room and we'd been together for 14 years this year. We met after that at the Adelphi to see a gig. I think it was possibly someone from Stereolab playing. And we went to some kind of really cool gigs in the Adelphi, like the Pavement gig. That was a really big one when we were just getting into them. My friends were into them and they were like, listen to this band, and we went to see them live, and that was just the most intense kind of jam-packed gig I'd been to at that point. I've seen a lot of people at the Adelphi and I'm really pleased it's still going, and it's still pretty similar to how it was as well.
Okay.
John Bird.
More than anything in the 70s was the Wellington Club on Beverley Road. The Specials, UK Subs, Cockney Rejects, quite a lot of punk bands in the day that in the back of my mind somewhere, but at the moment I can't remember. But the Specials stood out amongst them all, I think, in the late 70s. Yeah. Well, obviously, Hull was very slow to pick up on a lot of the stuff. I was heavily into punk. Went down to London quite a lot and wore some of the stuff, but just couldn't afford some of the Seditionaries items at the time, so you'd make your own things up. Grandma's knitting you mohair jumpers and things like that, so that was probably it. Drain pipe jeans that were just not like normal jeans that they are nowadays. Doc Martens, and just bought a few Clash t-shirts, Sex Pistol t-shirts along the way. Basically anything that was punk. John Peel brought that to the fore by his radio stations, and if punk was on the music in the Wellington Club, you'd be up there pogoing. Not able to do it now with the bad knees, but in those days it was good fun.
Yeah, my name's Kevin Young. From about the age of 16, I was mobile DJ. In fact, I started at Hesel Youth Centre, and then went on from there to do the bog standard 18th, 21st, weddings, that kind of thing, school discos. Then somebody who worked at what was then Seven Seas club down Cleveland Street, a friend of a friend who'd seen me work, he got in touch with me and talked about this new club that was happening, which was Spiders, and Spiders came out of Seven Seas, so 3 guys bought it and changed it to Spiders, and that was 1978, and I started late that year. I actually started as it was still called Seven Seas, knowing that the transition was going to take place, and I worked there until around about 1982, I think. Some of the best times of my life. Just had an absolute fantastic time working there. Great camaraderie with the staff and the customers. I got myself a reputation for playing as many requests as I could possibly manage in one night. I used to have an A4 sheet right alongside where I was working, and people used to come up and write their requests down, and my aim was to play all of them during the course of the night. Didn't always work out, but nevertheless most people went away happy. Well, the thing is that when I started, it was kind of the end of disco and that kind of thing, and that's probably where my musical roots lie. But obviously as Spiders developed, and with the onset of punk and new romantics, then musical tastes changed, and I always felt that I was there to play the music that people wanted, not necessarily the music that I liked. So you're right, even at Spiders we used to have 18th and 21st birthdays, but the mainstream at the weekend was somewhat different to that, when we were playing up to the minute alternative music. Well, going back before that, one of my first experiences was winning tickets to see Shawadi Wadi at Bailey's. So I can remember being 16 years old, knowing that you had to dress up to go to Bailey's. So my friend and I stood putting our ties on in what I think was British Home Store's window, making sure that the knot was straight, and used to go in a lift and go upstairs to the club. So we got in the lift, there was a bouncer there, and we were already sweating by that time, wondering whether we were going to get in. And just as the lift doors were closing, he leaned forward, he said, "You don't need to wear your ties, lads," and we just breathed a sigh of relief and enjoyed our evening. Going on from that, Tiffany's, Annabella's, Peppermint Park, the various incarnations of what was originally the locale, now the Mecca, I believe, in Ferrens Way. But by the time I was DJing, I used to go to Beer Keller for a drink just before I went to work at Spiders. I knew one of the doormen there, so I used to call in and see him, and then go on to Spiders to work for the night. When I eventually finished at Spiders, that didn't stop me going out. And Waterfront was the key place that I used to go to, and in fact I met my wife in the queue at Waterfront, and I'm still with my wife after 30 years or so.
Well, I went to the Tower. That was the first one I went to because that had no bar. It was a derelict building, so you could go underage. I went to see Temple Tudor when I was there when I was 15. So that was my first proper gig in Hull. I used to go to City Hall, Delphi, Wally Club, places like that. I was always into old school punk, so any of the old punk bands like the Damned and the Addicts. I preferred a bit of melody. I didn't like the shouty ones, so I'm not so keen on the exploited bands like that. But like any of the old school punk with a bit of melody, I used to like. Well, I want like a hardcore punk. I'd just wear whatever I wanted to wear. You know, which in a way is what punk is. You know, you just wear what you want to wear. You don't have to conform to. So I never wore any of the studs or the haircuts or anything like that, but I was just always into the music. So it was just about the music, and I just wore, same as today, whatever I wanted to wear. Yeah, there was always good because the crowds in Hull, they were always rowdy, and you didn't get a lot of the bigger name acts. So when they came, you know, there was always a good atmosphere. I mean, even ones that maybe weren't classed as punk, like I went to see the Mac Lads at the Tower, and I went to see them at City Hall, and that was wild. It was the crowd were going mental, and I remember the Mac Lads at Tower, and they was dragging all the instruments trying to drag the instruments into the crowd, and you had big fat bouncers who was trying to stop them. That was pretty amazing. Well, yeah, I used to go all over to watch them. Not just in Hull as well. I used to, you know, all over Yorkshire. I was a bit too young when punk first started. I was born in '67, so I was only 9 or 10. So there was a second wave of punk in the early '80s. So that's when I was really into it. It was in the early '80s. I used to drink vast quantities of lager. I used to drink too much, and it's when all day drinking came out. I used to go drinking. I used to say eight times a week because I used to go out twice on a Saturday. And so vast quantities of lager and sometimes snake bites, but just lots and lots of lager. And I'm not bragging about it. It's not clever, but I used to drink. I just used to drink an awful lot because beer and music go together.
Name is Bruce Massey. Yeah, I'm 55, so I actually started to go to clubs, nightclubs as they might have been called, mid-70s. Throughout the 80s we went to places like Spiders, the Silhouette, including the old Silhouette when it's still on Springbank itself. We did actually go a lot, because we're from Allaby, Wilby, Kirkella area, a lot of us, and we're mods and scooter boys. We used to go to Trees at Ferriby and Melton Sporting Club, and they were fantastic. They played our sort of music, which was Tom and Motown, a bit of northern soul, because there's usually a lot of us and a lot of people were that way inclined. When we came into town, we went to places like Tiff's as it was then, Spiders, as I say, Silhouette, Romeo's a little bit later actually, and maybe some of the ones on George Street. And it wasn't just for the music, it was because a lot of us went out for a drink together and I don't want to have a good time really. So, but being mods was about the three things really. It was the music, which depended on you whether that was the main thing, the scooters and the clothes, and you know, we did all of it. It was great times. Well, in the 70s it was probably northerns with football jumpers and things like that, but I forget where, I mean Fred Perry's and you know, skin and strain pipe sort of jeans, maybe Dr. Martin boots or something, and Hush Puppies loafers, which I've still got a pair of. I can't remember really where we got the clothes from so much, but a lot of shops sold them. I think there were sections in Hammonds and such like. But you know, it was all a bit all wearing similar stuff and two-tone suits and things like that. If depending where we were going, what it was about, what it was for.
My name's Andrea Dolan. Well, back in the day, I used to go to Spiders. Won't dwell on Spiders too much, but we live close by. Used to sneak off there when we were 16 or 17. It's safe place to go, never any trouble, yet really messy. It was always in wobbling distance, great tunes. Nobody at school liked it, so I liked it all the more. Found out about this place called Adelphi. It was a bit mythical, and I was from East Hull, and the Adelphi seemed a million miles away. And I had a chat with Steve at Spin It Records. He said, "Tell me about this place." You know, I loved Suede. I used to go and order all the records in every different format. And he said, "You got to go. You know, it's like someone's living room. It's really friendly. You'll be fine." So my boyfriend and I at the time, we tried to get in to see the Lars, queued around the block, didn't make it. We eventually got to get in, sneak into the mythical place. I'm not sure what my first gig was, but I found the best gigs are the bands that no one's ever heard of and that you never hear of again. But the Wild Nights, there was a Canadian punk band that turned up dressed in Star Trek outfits, and we had trophies for the best dancer and Name That Tune. Which was pretty wild. Yeah, people swinging off the ceiling and things being torn down, the sweat dripping, broken legs, broken arms, broken tables, but all in the spirit of things. No malice, just all good fun, safe fun. At the time, I was started off as a bit of a rock chick, but was an indie kid at heart. So I remember being in Spiders and having a dance off with somebody to, it was an old Black Sabbath tune, and I had pigtails and my Levi red tabs on, my Doc Martens, my 16-holers, little old 70s shirt, you know. He sort of looked at me and said, "What are you doing on this dance floor?" And well, that was like a red rag to a bull, so we had a sing off and we had a dance off. And at the end we shook hands, and respect was shared between me and the rocker, if you like. So I don't know, I think as you grow up, things change as well. You go through these phases, different styles, you try things out, some of them you like, some of them you don't. I think really anything goes.
Yeah, Ray Stevens. The 60s was Kestrel, Malcolm's, then the youth clubs, the founder of Monte Carlo Cafe, corner of Midland Street and Osborne Street. Monte Carlo was a true owns for the skinheads in Hull, yeah, which took off big time in summer of '69 up to 1972. Yeah. Well, it wasn't a nice place to be at that time. Yeah. If you was a stranger out there. After I'd been to London when I was 15, an exhibition with work, and I was going around London, and all the kids on scooters in London had shaved heads. Then you didn't need crash helmets till '69. This was '68 then. So '69, shaved my head, got a pair of Doc Martens, and basically the rest of it was history. It just took off, right, big time. Got my first Lambretta on my birthday, my 16th birthday. Yeah, an SX 150. Yeah, ska music, yeah, reggae. but the old Motown, yeah. Yeah, we had plenty of brilliant nights out, but mainly in the 60s it was fighting every night with the skinheads and the mods, the older mods from Manchester Arms in the old town. Skinhead style was what I'm actually wearing now. Ben Shermans, Levi jeans, Doc Marten boots, yeah. Harrington jacket, yeah, which I've got there, yeah, on the floor there, Harrington jackets. And one of our favourite pubs was El de Grey, which is all boarded up now, yeah. Two parrots was Cha-Cha and Ringo, yeah, very talkative. You know, the place got burgled one night and somebody killed one of the parrots, and it was Cha-Cha, which is buried under the new road now, outside the pub. And they've opened the new road, that's where the parrot was buried, yeah. So years later, I think maybe 20 years later, the kid who stabbed the parrot, he got stabbed to death himself. Yeah, about 20 odd years later. Yeah, that was in all the papers. Yeah, yeah. El de Grey was a brilliant pub. But to us, like, it was just a local pub. Like people say, it had a bad reputation and everything, with seamen and everything. But to us, it was a local pub. All my family went in there. My mother went in there. All of us went in there. Yeah.
Isabel Tracy. I think the first club I went to in Hull was probably something like Ballyhigh. 78, something like that. Not absolutely sure, I haven't thought about it. I seem to remember there were actually some plastic palm trees there, and there was a song out about Saturday night underneath the plastic palm trees that always seemed to resonate. It was a funny time, wasn't it? Because what was playing in clubs and what you were actually listening to on the radio and buying and all the rest of it was quite different. There weren't, do you know what I mean? There was all the punk stuff happening, but it was, and loads and loads of reggae imports, you know, really cheap reggae imports from Jamaica. That was what you were listening to, but that wasn't what was playing in the clubs mostly. Do you know, I seem to remember wearing a collection of things from the Sue Ryder charity shop. We were quite fans of Sue Ryder. So again, it was this odd mix. So there was this kind of fairly mainstream disco-y thing going on, and then us turning up in this kind of polystyrene look, really. All that kind of crimpling two-pieces that grannies and aunties used to wear, like little boxy jackets and pencil skirts, and yeah, there wasn't really, it's like those films of the Sex Pistols playing in Manchester. It was like you were a punk before there was any semblance of punk going on. Do you know what I mean? It didn't look, there wasn't a dress code. There weren't people who were dressed as punks when you were listening to all that music. It was more that you were out in the middle of mainstream disco land, but in your own version, you know, with you. I've got a photo of me in a velvet jacket with a big massive X-ray specs badge on it. It's a kind of weird transition and moment, I think. I particularly like going to see bands at the Welly. That was the best place. 79, 80, something like that, yeah. The one I most remember is, one of the ones I most remember is seeing the Specials. It was a Thursday night. They'd just been on Top of the Pops for the first time with Gangsters, and an hour after they'd seen themselves on Top of the Pops, they were playing the Welly. It was sweaty, exciting. They were only 2 years older than us lot. It was just a really great night. Oh, it was the Acrylics was the support, yeah, I think. So, local Hull band, famous bits of graffiti under the railway lines, Z-Men, Acrylics, all those bands. I was wearing a pair of men's trousers from a charity shop, We all wore loads of men's trousers and overcoats for some reason at that time, and a kind of long blue coat from again from a charity shop, and a little button-down button collar shirt, white shirt. I was part of that transitionary thing. I was a kind of absolute refusenik of hairstyles. So while everybody else was cutting it short and spiking it up with soap, I just had this long hippie hair. It just was, I don't know, it was just a strange anomaly. So you can see from that gig in the Welly, I can see the back of my own head. And I used to put it up in a ponytail on one side. But it was a strange one, because it was like, it was all becoming codified and dress coded, and everybody had to look in a certain way, and I just didn't want to do it really. Blackcurrant cordial. It cost 12.5p. And so a night out, if you did the old fake the door stamp on the back of your hand trick, could cost you just 2 halves of blackcurrant. I was just completely poor, and so a night out could cost me 25p.
I'm Jack Hare, I'm head barista at Stephen Harry's Cafe on Humber Street. I've always gone to Welly Club on Beverley Road. It's my childhood club, if you could call it a childhood club, going there since before I was 18 and growing up. Thursday nights there, where we always used to go as kids at college or whatever, and it's great, loved it. And then still now, Saturday nights there is where I like to go. It's a right mix of music. There's indie stuff, there's reggae stuff, there's hip hop stuff, and then upstairs is a real good electro room, dubby, trappy music, which I really like. I drink anything, but I'd just probably say vodka now. It's cheap and strong. I just kind of wear black Doc Martens shoes, rolled up jeans, tight black jeans really, something like that, black t-shirt.